You're watching 21 WFMJ, where 21 stands for more local news. This is 21 News, 6 p.m.
Lighter lunches at school. With new government restrictions, school districts are cutting back on fat and sugar. How are they still keeping kids happy in the cafeteria? Decision in a deadly crash. She was charged with causing the death of her unborn child and another driver. But Rachel Zorger will not go on trial.
A new version of the Chevy Cruze is on its way to Lordstown here. I'm Glenn Stevens. We'll tell you why auto workers are saying it will bring increased job security.
Good evening, everyone. Bob has a night off. General Motors makes an announcement that auto workers say it means more job security at the Lordstown plant. GM revealed this morning that the assembly plant in Lordstown will produce a diesel-powered Chevy Cruze. Regular production will begin in 2013. GM says the move represents a $5 million investment. Glenn Stevens is following the story and joins us from Lordstown with more on what the announcement means to the valley. Glenn?
Well, Leslie, when General Motors announced earlier this year its plans for a diesel Cruze, it did not commit to where it would be built. Now that it's coming to Lordstown, it will mean additional investment and commitment to this plant.
It's a $5.5 million investment here at Lordstown.
Preparation work for the diesel model Cruze will begin as early as next week.
We'll begin some testing builds for it next week. Those will continue for the next several months.
At this point, GM says the diesel will not likely mean any additional jobs at Lordstown. But leaders of the Auto Workers Union say anytime the company is willing to invest millions, it's a vote of confidence in your workforce.
When you have a membership like we have, it's a lot easier to go out and do some creative things, and I think this is a result of those things.
Congressman Tim Ryan believes that it reinforces Lordstown's place in GM's future.
I think this is part of the long-term game plan that General Motors Lordstown will be leading General Motors for the next decade or two.
Even though diesel will cost a little more, GM says the commitment to a diesel-powered Cruze is the result of research and customer demand.
Our customers have told us, and our leadership has made that clear, that there's a strong interest right now for a diesel in North America, and we're responding to that interest.
GM says the diesel-powered Cruze will be available only with an automatic transmission and should arrive in showrooms in early 2013. With more local news, I'm Glenn Stevens.
Well, is there a market for a car that takes diesel fuel? And is there a market for a diesel engine? 21 News reporter Matt Stone has been looking for some answers and joins us now live. Matt?
Well, in Europe, these cars are very popular. A lot of people drive diesel cars in Europe because it's the same price as unleaded gasoline. Unfortunately, here in America, there is a big difference in the price between unleaded fuels and diesel fuels. As you can see behind me at this Sheet Station, Weathersfield Township, unleaded cost $3.19, diesel $3.79. That's 60 extra cents a gallon, so that might turn some people off here in America. Now, GM says they want to build this because more people do want diesel engines. That's because the engine is more powerful, it's more fuel efficient, there's more torque, there's more horsepower. We talked to Greg Greenwood at Greenwood Chevrolet. He says that GM just wants more people to have more choices in fuel efficiency.
Chevy Volt, nice electric car. It's not going to be everybody's solution. Pretty pricey and all that kind of stuff, but really interesting technology. E85, the ethanol, was a possible solution. A lot of the hybrids that we're seeing, the partial hybrids, full hybrids, partial solution. This is a continuous movement of that additional partial solution right here.
Well, not only is diesel fuel more expensive, the engine is also more pricey. I've talked to some people today, and they estimate that the engine might cost about $5,000 more than the engine in a regular Cruze. Reporting live from Weathersfield Township, I'm Matt Stone with more local news.
Thanks, Matt. Just days before Rachel Zorger was scheduled to go on trial for causing the head-on crash that killed her unborn baby and a Beaver Township woman, a plea deal is reached in the case. 21 News reporter Michelle Nix joins us to explain why. Michelle?
Leslie, after that last hearing, the judge ruled that Zorger's blood alcohol test and statements made to police were inadmissible after a former prosecutor had what was called a meltdown and failed to present witnesses at a hearing. Now, 2 of 3 charges against Rachel Zorger have been dismissed as part of a plea because prosecutors feel they would have been difficult to prove. Rachel Zorger of Canfield was set to go on trial on Monday, charged in the April head-on crash that killed Zorger's unborn child and 55-year-old Darla Schumacher, the driver of this red SUV.
So Honorable Court stands in recess.
At one point, a brief recess was taken, and the family of the Beaver Township victim was asked to step outside of the courtroom to meet with the prosecutor. The family was consulted about a plea deal. Zorger pled guilty to the aggravated vehicular homicide of Darla Schumacher. 2 other charges related to the defendant's unborn child were dismissed.
The state is aware that one of the issues that could come up pertaining to those counts is the defendant's own conduct as far as any alcohol consumption and cigarette smoking that perhaps caused the baby's weight to be as small as it was upon its death.
The state said contradictory opinions on if the fetus would have survived outside of the womb would possibly make it difficult to convict on those charges. Zorger was about 6 months pregnant, the baby allegedly underdeveloped.
I think Dr. Orr likened it to the size of a potato. Very, very small and very, very underdeveloped.
Prosecutors say what's important is that Zorger has now accepted responsibility for Schumacher's death, and they will recommend the maximum of 8 years in prison when she's sentenced in December. With more local news, I'm Michelle Nix.
2 people are charged with separate robberies in Niles. Authorities arrested 21-year-old Matt Vargo of Cortland and a 17-year-old boy from Niles. Investigators believe the 2 are responsible for Monday's robberies of someone at an ATM in Niles and a man walking in Girard. Salem police want criminals to know that someone may be watching them. Police Chief Bob Four says that for the past month, he's been monitoring activity in the city using 2 portable video cameras. Four says the cameras can be moved around to various locations. So far, they haven't caught any lawbreakers. The idea of adding an additional primary election date in Ohio next year is not getting support from local government leaders. Lawmakers in Columbus are considering a March election for local offices, a congressional election in June, plus the general election in November.
So when you say you're going to have 3 elections, you're going to cost each county approximately $1.2 million in costs.
Commissioners say they don't need additional costs when the state is already cutting local government funding. The area court in Boardman is moving from its present location in Boardman Plaza to a building on Market Street just north of the Township Administration Building. Commissioners have approved a 10-year lease agreement for $1.5 million. The lease includes an escape clause in the event court consolidation should happen during the lease period. PNC Bank is moving its downtown Youngstown offices. Just weeks after workers removed scaffolding on the building at Wick Avenue and Commerce Street, PNC announced today it's moving a few blocks away. Early next year, PNC's downtown office will be in the City Center 1 building, which will be renovated to become environmentally friendly. A manufacturer is moving out of Canfield but staying in Mahoning County. The National Industrial Lumber Company has purchased a lumber processing company, Canfield Manufacturing. The new owner tells 21 News that they'll move operations to Nilco's North Jackson facility. They also say no jobs will be lost. Practice turned into a real emergency for Youngstown firefighters this afternoon. Crews this week have been sharpening their skills fighting fires in high-rise buildings. This afternoon, the fire department called an ambulance to help a firefighter who fell. There's no word yet on the firefighter's name or condition. A multi-car pileup on I-680 forced traffic to take a detour for several hours this morning. 2 trucks and several cars collided in the southbound lane near the Glenwood Avenue exit in Youngstown. Police say there were no life-threatening injuries. Coming up on 21 News at 6, deep in debt. Why did the owner of an exotic animal farm release lions, bears, and tigers, then shoot himself? There may be a new clue tonight. And are road crews ready for winter? It's not something a lot of us want to talk about, but plows and salt trucks are gearing up for the snow and ice. 2 months after his regime was pushed from power in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi has been killed. Gaddafi was killed in his hometown of Sirte, fell to the anti-Gaddafi forces. Gaddafi's body was taken to Misrata, a city that was besieged for months by his forces. The man who freed animals from his Zanesville exotic animal farm was deep in debt. Court records show that Terry Thompson owed at least $68,000 in income and property taxes. Investigators also say that a large cat bit Thompson on the head shortly after he shot himself. Funeral services were held today for former Mahoning County prosecutor Vince Gilmartin. A funeral mass was heard at St. Christine Church for the attorney who passed away on Monday following a brief illness. Vincent Gilmartin was 83. The third time is a charm for an affordable housing project in Farrell. After the government rejected the application for funding 2 times, the 44-unit project was finally approved. Work should begin in April and be completed a year later. Don't underestimate the power of young women when they combine their voices. The Girl Scouts Board of Directors has reversed its decision to shut down Camp Sugarbush in Trumbull County. Troops protested when the girls said they would close the camp in Kinsman, along with 4 others around the state. The other 4 campgrounds are still slated to shut down. The Ohio Department of Transportation is gearing up for winter weather. Across the state, ODOT garages are inspecting their snow removal equipment. Today, Mahoning County did its dry run.
We go through the truck, we try the horns, we try the lights, we try the plow, we try everything and make sure everything's in tune. We do calibrate our snow augers to make sure they're putting out what they're supposed to put out, not too much, not too little, just where they're supposed to be according to spec. So when
ODOT operates 20 snowplows in Mahoning County. There are 1,700 statewide.
And winter is around the corner, for some of us at least. Anyway, we'll talk about a rainy night here in Ohio. It's going to be chilly as well, and we're going to be rainy again tomorrow. Then it's going to end. I'll tell you when right after this.
This Storm Tracker Storm Cam is brought to you by the Maruka Law Firm, the firm for your family.
Well, a wet night here in the valley. We've had our share of rain. Cleveland over 2 1/4 inches. Akron, Canton up to 2 inches over the last 48 hours, and it continues to rain again. Here is Storm Tracker radar. This is out of Cleveland. Look at these bands of rain, and there are some moderate cells in here as well. That's where you see the yellow. It's just an inundation of rain from Cleveland, Akron, Canton, all the way down through New Philadelphia, right on through Youngstown and over to Pittsburgh. So you're going to get wet if you're headed out tonight indeed. We were up to 51 degrees. That's as chilly as we've been in quite a while here today. 42 the low, 59 and 40 is where we should be. It was 78 in 1939. That set the record high. 22, that was bone-chilling cold in 1972. Sunset tonight at 6:35. Sunrise this morning at 7:40. It's 44 now. The dew point's at 41. We'll probably have some fog setting up tonight. The humidity 89%. All 3 of those factors blend in for a very foggy night. Winds are out of the southwest. It is brisk out there at 22. And the pressure is 29.44. That's very low, but the barometer is slowly rising, and 0.13 in the rain gauge out at the airport. 42 in Cincinnati. It's 57 in Charlotte, so the warm temperatures have kind of left the East Coast. It is 63, though, in Boston, 61 in New York. It is 46 in Chicago, 56 down at Nashville. Here it is now across the country. Boy, these spinning areas of low pressure, there's an occluded front on the cold front, and that's driving everything back from the east. So it's just one night of rain here all the way down as far south as Kentucky and West Virginia. 54 Kansas City, beautiful in Dallas, 72, 82 in Brownsville. So very warm air holds on down in Texas and also to the southwest. It is 65 at LAX in Los Angeles. It's 59 up in Seattle. The tropics are quiet at this point. Really nothing is going on. We're not expecting anything to develop over the next couple of days. High pressure's in here. This is going to wash everything out of here. It's going to be a great weekend if you like warm temperatures, warmer than we were today. We'll be in the 50s. Here's Futurecast now. Over a couple of days, it's going to show the rain leaving Ohio. So Friday night for high school football, I think we'll be in great shape here. There'll be no weather problems at all. 40 tonight, cold, breezy, rain. It's going to be wet. Winds out of the southwest. Hold on to your hats at 15 to 20. Then tomorrow, 52, cloudy skies, a chance of rain mainly in the morning. During the afternoon, we should begin to clear. Westerly winds at 10 to 15. Here's a look now at your 7-day outlook. 52 tomorrow, 38 the low for high school football tomorrow night. Partly cloudy skies. On Saturday, up to 55. Not bad. Sunday, warmer, up to 58, partly sunny. On Monday, we'll be partly sunny, close to 60. On Tuesday, we'll hit 60. Wednesday, a chance of showers. They return, and we'll see a high at that point of 58 degrees, and we'll fall off on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies and a high of 50. So get out the winter coats.
Yeah, it's really windy out there.
Oh,
it has been all day.
It's a raw day out there.
Thanks, Mark. Well, coming up on Healthy Living in our valley, fading French fries. There was a time when school lunches loaded up on the oily spuds. We'll show you how one district is keeping kids healthy and happy. It's not a lunch line like you and I remember. Tonight, Healthy Living reporter Susan Campbell shows us why the Salem City School District is being recognized for its school lunches.
The lunch special du jour is beef shawarma. The Middle Eastern meal may not be your typical school lunch, but these students are eating it up.
I think they're amazing.
The unique menu is all part of the Salem City School District's push to provide healthy food options in the lunch line.
You can definitely tell a difference.
I really like the salads and like all the vegetables they have.
Typical lunches in this cafeteria are around 760 calories, and they're full of vitamins and nutrients that growing bodies need.
The pastas are multi-grain. The rice is multi-grain as well. So anytime that we can sneak something in that's healthy and the students don't know it, we get it in there.
Chef J.R. Straley is also leaving things out.
The tater tots, the French fries at the elementaries no longer exist here in this district.
And though French fries are still served in the high school, the amount has been limited. 6 years ago, the cafeteria served up 300 pounds of French fries every single day. Now French fries are only served 3 days a week, and kids consume 165 pounds of them, about half of the amount that they used to.
There's a lot of pressure now to provide students or any of our young people with a healthier alternative because of the childhood obesity problem.
Very proud. Those innovative and nutritious alternatives helped Chef Straley win this year's Platinum Tray Award, beating out nearly 200 other schools in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey for the top honor.
I am enormously proud of my staff and the job that they do.
A job that's teaching Salem's kids about healthy living. For Healthy Living, I'm Susan Campbell.
Coming up on 21 Sports, stopping the run. YSU coach Eric Wolford talks about the Penguins defense facing one of the best running backs in the country this weekend. And District 10 showdown, plenty on the line between Sharpsville and Farrell. Coaches tell us what will be the key to winning next. Dana has the night off. With only 2 weeks left for teams in the Buckeye State, the pressure mounting to lock up those playoff spots. Over in Pennsylvania, well, Farrell and Sharpsville look to add another chapter in their Shenango Valley rivalry. The Steelers and Blue Devils squaring off this week in a rematch of the 2009 District 10 Class A championship game. Sharpsville comes in still undefeated after 6 weeks. Farrell, well, they've had the upper hand. They've won the last 4 meetings. Both coaches know that coming out on top in this one is controlling the turnover game.
You can't turn the ball over. Once you turn the ball over, they just have a knack for coming, picking it up, and scoring. They score off of punts and punt returns and interceptions. So if we don't have any interceptions, I feel real confident about this game.
Win first down. If we can get second and shorts, second and mid-range stuff, where we can throw or pass, and be two-dimensional. That's the big thing for us offensively. And we're going to have to turn them over a few times. Maybe squeeze out a couple plays on the special teams and, give us a chance to win it at the end.
After getting his first road win at Youngstown State, Eric Wolford now turns his attention to St. Francis. The Red Storm come into Saturday's game at Stanball Stadium, still looking for their first road win. The offense pretty balanced, but Wolford says the key to slowing them down is shutting down the ground game.
I think it primarily starts with trying to shut down the run. Defensively, very similar to Southern Illinois in some aspects. They like to play +1 in the box. You have to be able to match up some things in your running passing game so that way you can take advantage of them when they're over aggressive and try to win some one-on-ones outside so you can make some plays down the field.
Talladega Superspeedway is the wild card race in the chase for the championship. Anything can happen, and the main goal is to try and steer clear of the big one. In the Diane Sauer Chevy NASCAR report, Matt Kenthes is coming off his 3rd win of the season and heads to the high banks of Alabama, full speed ahead.
Again, the Wisconsin driver, Matt Kenseth, scores.
It's a big confidence boost whenever you can win. I think it kind of puts a spring in everybody's step. It kind of gives you and your team the confidence that you can win.
Coming off his 3rd trip to victory lane this season, the former champion in the hunt for his first title since 2003, and NASCAR changed the rules following that championship run.
It's been quite a while. Things change a lot. There's been a lot of rules changes and format changes, since then. But it feels. We've had a good season so far. But the most important part of the season is coming up, and it really doesn't matter what you did, last week. It's all about what you're going to do, moving forward.
Kenseth is 3rd in the standings, only 7 points behind leader Carl Edwards. Leslie, coming up tonight on 21 Sports, the Phantoms have a shot to pull into a first-place tie if they get a win over Cedar Rapids. Plus, the Penguins get one of their top players back on defense. See you at 11.
Thanks, Mike. Well, Mark, it's just been such a chilly, dreary day today.
This is the kind of day you want to stay in bed or sit in front of the fireplace and say, I'm not going outside, you know?
Yes.
We've had our share of rain, and it's been a chilling rain indeed. We're going down into the low 40s tonight, possibly some upper 30s. Fog could be a problem, so when you're driving, pay special attention to that. 52 tomorrow. It's going to dry out tomorrow night for high school football. We're great for the weekend. Looks fine.
Thanks, Mark. And for more local news, weather, and sports, and any breaking news, log on to WFMJ.com. Join us at 11 for more local news about a local chemical plant and its possible effect on the health of children. NBC Nightly News is next.
Thanks for watching 21 News, 6 p.m. Our Valley's #1 local news.
The Valley is on the brink of what could be an economic explosion.
No way am I going to let them be on my property, that's for sure.
People out of work are hungry for job opportunities.
More than 200,000 jobs will be created over the next 5 years.
O-H-I-O! Hydrofracking's got to go!
What we found was that there was no evidence of influences from hydraulic fracturing, at least on the wells that we looked at in the time frame that we looked at them.
But right now we're finding that we can't do it safely, that the regulations aren't there.
Billions of dollars are being poured into the area, and thousands of jobs are being created, all because of what lies deep underground.
Report after report after report demonstrating that fracturing the rocks does not cause groundwater contamination.
These earthquakes occur near these wells and have occurred after these wells have gone online.
All of the earthquakes are within probably a 1.5 mile radius of the actual injection well.
Those who argue in favor of Issue 2 say its reforms are needed to bring government spending under control. But opponents say if it is not overturned by a no vote in November, it will remove collective bargaining rights from public employees.
All for one and one for all!
After September 11th in 2001, all police and firefighters were treated as heroes.
And 10 years later, do you know what's changed? Nothing. We still do our jobs, only now the governor and his coward friends, they treat us as the enemy.
It's not some personal attack on them or a personal attack on their union or anything else. This is all about trying to get the state in the right position.
It's a date seared in the minds of all Americans. And these veteran 21 News journalists were here 10 years ago reporting on the impact of the 9/11 attacks on our valley.
We're all Americans, and Americans died today.
Now, a decade later, they revisit the people and stories they covered on September 11th. How we came together, how we helped, and how we felt that day. Join us and the reporters who were there for 9/11, The Valley Remembers.
This week on 21 News, 6 and 11 p.m.
Americans do not yet have the distance of history, but our responsibility to history is already clear.
The numbers that we're working on are in the thousands.
It is a heartbreak of overwhelming proportion.
We go on, but part of us is lost forever, I think.
So I had 8 grandkids all together. Now I have 5.
In just a matter of minutes, flames destroyed this home on Lansdowne and took the lives of Linda Dorsey's son, Derek, daughter-in-law, Audrey Johnson, and 3 grandchildren, 11-year-old Derek Jr., and 9-year-old Ariel Dorsey and 9-year-old Miracle Hughley. Audrey's niece, 13-year-old Janice Hicks, was also killed in the blaze. Linda Dorsey was also Miracle's legal guardian.
Miracle lived here with me. And she was a joy. She was a trip, but she was a joy. And little Derek, I used to call him Scooter Boot. And he didn't like it, and he told me I couldn't call him that, but I did. And he was just like a little professor. He knew everything. And Ariel was just like a grown mama. She wanted to boss everybody around. So I'll miss them because they're normally here every weekend.
Ariel and Miracle were even on the same baseball team together.
Matter of fact, they had a game today, and they will see it.
Linda says her son Derek and Audrey were loving parents.
He was a fantastic person. If you needed help, he was always there to help you. And he loved his kids and his family dearly, dearly. And she loved her kids very dearly. And Miracle and Johnny's. She loved them all.
Funds for the Dorsey family have been set up at Huntington Bank and Wood Forest Bank located inside Walmart. With more local news, I'm Jennifer Balagish.
Given the nature of the damage, we felt the fire had been burning for at least 20 to 40 minutes prior to notification.
Derek's fiancée, Audrey Johnson, their children, Ariel Dorsey and Derek Dorsey Jr., and nieces Miracle Hughley and Janice Hicks all died in the fire. Any loss of life is difficult for firefighters to deal with, but losing 6 people at once is overwhelming.
You can see it in everybody's faces and eyes. You know, it's hard, and you know, people say it's part of the job, which it is, but it does take a toll on you.
Especially for firefighters who have children of their own.
I think everybody has a different threshold for dealing with traumatic situations like this. It all depends on the makeup of the firefighter himself.
The Dorseys did not have a smoke detector in the home. Nassau tells me that would have significantly increased their chance of survival. He says the fire department has free smoke detectors for anyone who wants one. With more local news, I'm Talia Hagler.
Blood in the street. Multiple trails of blood in the front and backyard, and blood at both doorways tell part of the story of the shootings that took place here. Boots were left in the street where they lay, a broken necklace on the ground. YSU student Jamail Johnson, shot in the head, died. 11 others wounded, 6 of them YSU students.
The fact that these individuals left this party and then indiscriminately, allegedly, and what it appears indiscriminately, then decided because they were removed from a party to go back and retaliate.
One dead and one is still listed in critical condition. The majority of them were shot in areas like the foot and the leg and in the calf areas.
Some students at a nearby fraternity tell us they heard gunfire early this morning, while others say they actually witnessed the mayhem that took place here. However, they aren't talking, emphasizing that one person is dead, 11 others are wounded.
YSU President Cynthia Anderson went to St. Elizabeth's Hospital to be with the students and families in the morning. Her director of communications tells us most students were not on campus Sunday, so there was no need to lock the campus down.
Most of the people that are on campus are students who live in our residence halls. The police immediately stationed an officer at each of those residence halls and monitored the comings and goings of students.
I have been assured by our Youngstown State Police Department that there is no threat to campus.
Police posted outside Omega Psi Phi tell us no one has returned to the crime scene. Youngstown's mayor vowing those responsible for the murder and violence will be brought to justice. With more local news, I'm Janet Rogers.
Everybody who lived around Youngstown probably wrote it and were sad the day it was gone.
Idora Park's carousel was sold at auction in 1984 for $385,000. So where is it now?
21 News reporter Matt Stone went to New York City, where it has just come back to life.
In the fall of 1984, still reeling from the loss of its steel mills, Youngstown was now going to lose a cherished piece of everyone's childhood. An auction was held at Idora Park in October.
Certainly, as a member of the National Carousel Association, we hope that there is a buyer here with sufficient money to buy the machine intact. The fact that it's an original machine here since 1922, and it's in such beautiful original condition, it should really be saved.
It was. Brooklyn wanted to develop a park with a carousel as its focal point. Artist Jane Walentis traveled all over America looking for the perfect one, and she found it in Youngstown. Now, 27 years later, her hard work is on display between the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. The carousel sits inside a $10 million jewelry box of a building made of 4.5-inch thick acrylic walls. The view is stunning. But it took a lot of work to get everything here. It came from Youngstown in pieces. The first thing she did in 1984, she stripped the entire carousel platform. She called a professional art restorer from the Metropolitan Museum of Art to refurbish all the original paintings. All the mirrors and tiny jewels were saved. Then came the painfully slow process of restoring each horse, all 48 of them.
All of the horses here were restored to their original colors of 1922, with the exception of just one. This horse was so badly damaged in the fire of 1984 that they had no idea what its original colors were.
The heat blistered most of the paint off this chariot. She decided to keep most of the old paint on the chariots and just filled in the burnt spots with new artist oils. Every inch of the carousel was scraped with an X-Acto knife.
I worked alone for 20 some odd years, just taking it back to the original paint. I worked with a carpenter who made all the repairs that needed to be made. I documented all the old original paint from 1922, all the schemes and the designs that I found, all the stenciling. Believe it or not, it was really fun. I mean, there was this constant discovery. It was like a little archaeological dig, and then I'd, record what I found with drawings and color matches and photographs.
Through the process, she would find little mementos inside the horses that children left behind.
Coins would drop out, and tickets from Idora Park picnics would come out, and I have pages full of cellophane envelopes with all these mementos from Idora Park.
Jane has her favorite. She says it's the lead horse.
I think she has a beautiful face, and I love all these gorgeous trappings and the big Philadelphia Toboggan Company logo on the saddle blanket. It's extraordinary.
Over the years, Jane heard from Youngstowners, some happy the carousel was being saved, others angry she took it away. Now she says hundreds of Youngstown people have already visited the carousel in Brooklyn. Many get very emotional, and Jane gets teary-eyed just thinking about them.
I am so touched by their affection for this carousel. So I feel great now about having saved it, and it gives them a place to come and visit their memories and bring their children and their grandchildren.
Jane's Carousel is now becoming a destination, not just for the city, but for the world. This group of tourists from France were quick to get lost in its magic. So after 27 years, Youngstown's time for the carousel has well passed, and it's time for a new generation of children, young and old, to build new memories of a cherished piece of our history. We all miss it, but we must be happy it's in the good hands of the city that never sleeps. Reporting from Brooklyn Bridge Park in New York City, I'm Matt Stone.
You won't see many planes that can do this. But you can this weekend at a show presented by the Nighthawks RC Club. The members build and fly scale model radio-controlled planes, like this twin-engine Cessna 310. Mike Zook is the pilot, and his plane even has, look closely, retractable landing gear.
You're clear, Mike.
No, that's not a C-130 from the Vienna Air Base. It's an exact model of a C-130 hand-built by Dale Kowal of Boardman, a former military aircraft mechanic. Jason McQuiston has been flying for 18 years and shares the hobby with his dad.
It forms a bond between the father and the son, and it's something they can do together.
Jason is a new father himself and looks forward to teaching his son to fly.
3 generations of us will be out here flying, so that's the special part for me.
These electric-powered planes are basically cell phone technology, a battery, controller, and receiver, and some, like Bill Dorenzo's jet, can hit 184 miles per hour.
cool.
These planes and many more will be flying this weekend at the former Youngstown Executive Airport on Gibson Road in North Jackson. And the Nighthawks invite everyone to stop out.
It's for the public. It really is. You know, it's for us to show off our planes to the public, should I say, but it's a really good time.
Admission is free and concessions will be available. With more local news, I'm Glenn Stevens.
Yes, I want in. Let us in. This is our house. Let us in.
Thousands brave the cold and travel from every corner of Ohio to the State House in Columbus, wanting to exercise their rights to free speech and to peacefully protest. But imagine their surprise when the State House doors were locked and thousands were told they could not come in. Even United Auto Workers from GM Lordstown and hundreds of others from the Valley were forced to protest outside for a time. State lawmakers feel it was a deliberate effort to silence the people's voices.
I'm totally outraged that the leaders in the State House took this action against the people of the state of Ohio.
Troopers from the State Highway Patrol were just following orders and were told they could not exceed more than 700 people in the building for safety reasons.
I think what they're going to try and do is keep people outside until they're cold and miserable and leave. It seems like those people who are opposed to the bill are getting unfair treatment.
Then State Representative Bob Hagan and a contingent of other lawmakers demanded that at least 500 more be allowed in the building and refused to take no for an answer.
Now listen, the troopers are just following their orders. So do not make problems for the state troopers.
They know we're fighting for them as well, and we have negotiated to bring 500 into the rotunda. So please do it in an orderly fashion, and we have decided that this house is the taxpayers' house.
People in this building. They say this is the people's house and everyone should have been let in the first place.
Even former Governor Ted Strickland calls what's happening with state government an injustice for the working class.
Now, we've got a governor who was on Wall Street and walked away with a $400,000 bonus when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. And yet he seems to think that public employees are getting too much when they get a meager pension after years and years and years of hard work.
Thousands standing up for what they believe say they just want to be heard. With more local news, I'm Michelle Nix. It could be considered a cultural epidemic, and it's plaguing Youngstown. Kids killing kids and black-on-black crime.
They're all killing each other for senseless things.
And poverty, gangs, and drugs often play a major role.
It's not just a respect issue, it's the money issue, it's about what they don't have at home.
Of 19 murders in the city of Youngstown this year, 21% of the victims were teenagers.
The victims and the offenders are getting younger.
14 of the 19 murder victims were black males. Nearly 100% of the suspects, black males, and their weapon of choice, guns. In fact, the city of Youngstown, with assistance from the University of Cincinnati's Policing Institute, began looking at these deadly trends several years ago.
This is something that we did take a look at back in 2008 when we were preparing for the implementation of Operation Ceasefire. And not only did our rates of violent crimes stand out significantly among other peer cities, but our rates of black-on-black violent offenses stood out.
And it's not just an inner city problem, but a societal one, because violent crime not only destroys lives, but robs communities of economic growth. The city of Youngstown has approximately 28 identified gangs, according to the FBI, and some have now moved south into Boardman. So what's the answer? Some believe the problem starts and ends at home because police can't do it alone.
If you recall, we had an ordinance called parental responsibility, and a nearly identical ordinance was overturned up in the Cleveland area on appeal. And so we did repeal our ordinance, and we've really been searching and trying to find a way to force responsibility on parents when they're not doing their job.
There's often an attitude on the streets of kill or be killed, and a felon turned mentor says he's living proof that you can survive and succeed.
It was a choice that I wanted to change. It's something that I wanted to do for myself.
Glenn Williams, also known as Big Papa, runs the program One Step to Life on Southern Boulevard. And the former drug dealer who spent 10 years in prison is now mentoring others, encouraging them to get an education and make an honest living. And he says we all need to stop judging young people by their appearance and their attitude, instead encourage them to want more in life.
It's about planting that positive seed of life, and it's not easy.
With more local news, I'm Michelle Nix.
Everybody up here!
No amount of rain could turn away members of the Patriot Guard Riders motorcyclists to escort the body of 30-year-old Army reservist Captain Joshua McClymans from the Youngstown Air Force Base to his hometown. McClymans died in Afghanistan on April 22nd from wounds he received when insurgents attacked his unit with indirect fire. As the procession made its way back to McClyman's hometown of Jamestown, the community waited with anticipation. At the entry of town was the honor guard, ready to lead the procession through town, lining the streets, flags, bows, and signs expressing gratitude. Residents stopped what they were doing, pouring onto sidewalks, some filled with emotion. Even those who did not know the fallen soldier took time out to pay their respect.
We got a hero here today that this is the least that I can do to support our fighting soldiers.
Students from the Jamestown High School were excused from classes, learning a lesson in community and bravery.
It's kind of important to show how much they really mean to our community, and that the students really need to realize what they sacrificed going over and fighting for our country.
Mark. 1, 2.
McClyman's high school principal says a 30-year-old would often return to his alma mater, discussing his work as a nurse at Walter Reed VA Hospital.
Worked with a lot of injured veterans who came back with some really traumatic injuries, but he was also wearing on him.
Calling hours for McClyman's will be held this Thursday, and funeral services will be held at 11 a.m. at Jamestown Presbyterian Church. With more local news, I'm Anita Quinn.
Thanks for watching 21 News 6 p.m., our Valley's #1 local news.